All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I'm joined by.
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks for joining us for our 49th episode, everybody. How's it going, man?
It's going well. It's going well. Happy Saturday. And welcome for those of you watching out there to this episode of This Week in Review, the show in which we, give you the rundowns of what's happened over the past week, because we know things get busy. So we want to keep you a wind of all the goings on that have happened in entertainment. Now, before we hop into our stories today, of course, I want to hop into, a couple of minutes. Just make sure that, even if you aren't watching us live right now, and you're watching this as an archive episode, that you can still be a part of that conversation using that hashtag TWnRMNSU. So that's This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And also know that you can be a Patreon supporter with us. So if you enjoy a lot of the content that we do here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited, that you can be a Patreon supporter at the link that you see just down below. And with that being said, want to give a shout out to Patreon supporter Jerome Bourgeois. Shout out.
You can do it, man. Shout out. No, you already did.
No,
of course, shout out to my sister. I'm like, what am I not gonna? What kind of brother would I be, man? Of course, yes. Thank you.
No, I was just waiting for it. That's every single episode is waiting.
Hey,
for
man,
it. Shout out,
that's what we do, man. Hey, that's what siblings gotta support each other. But anyway, no, but she actually likes the show. It's not like she just supports. Like while she's working out, she listens.
Shout out, Sister Bourgeois. Shout out. Yeah. All right. Now, with that being said, let's hop into our first story, Jerome. So over this week, we received some news regarding Amazon and, the amount of money that they have spent over 2021, and it's absolutely mind-boggling. According to the story, that they've spent more than $13 billion in 2021. It's insane. So in a story out of Variety, it was disclosed the total video and music expense for 2021 in their annual SEC filing on Friday came to 13 billion. So Jerome, you hear this news and what are your thoughts on this amount of money that was shelved out last year?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have no choice, but we think that that's a lot of money, but compared to Netflix, I was hearing Netflix is spending 17 billion. So like they're kind of, they're kind of running a little bit short, but whatever. The content aspect of Amazon it seems to rely more on getting people to be Prime subscribers, obviously to help them, get things shipped to them a lot quicker and having that convenience. And then all the other, the content, the movies, the TV shows, the music, that sort of thing it's like a bonus to entice people to do it. So, but they got to keep up with that. And I know they were citing like, yes, they're going to continue making some high quality entertainment and, also because of labor costs and, they're always going to say stuff like that, of course. Well, there's inflation going on, but, and, it's more of, employees market. Because, with the tight labor market, or actually, well, I would say opposite, having more opportunities for workers. I think it's interesting because it just shows if you want to play at that level, you got to spend the money. I just thought it was interesting because, we did a story recently about Netflix increasing the subscription price, and it's like, hey, Amazon's doing the same thing. But granted, I will at least say Amazon is not just giving you, shows and movies to watch. Like they're actually providing another service of, expedited delivery. So if you're obviously ordering a lot of, goods off of the Amazon website, then, it could be worth your while. That's why I tell my mom, I'm like, if you're ordering a lot of stuff, go ahead. But it's like, for me, I'm not ordering that much stuff. I can wait. But it's still nice to watch the movies and shows that they have on there. So, that can be beneficial. I just think that it would be nice to see maybe, just see more options and opportunities I mean, more viewing options because of, based on what they have currently. And it's actually, I mean, you're gonna see a lot more stuff because of that deal with them acquiring MGM. I know there's, it's going through the legal process just to get approved. So, that's going to add to their library too. So, but I just thought it was an interesting story sharing this just because, like I said, next thing you know, I'm hoping Disney doesn't increase the prices next, even though they increase it slightly. And you have what is it, Apple? I mean, some of these big companies have some really affordable, lower tier monthly subscription fees, but I mean, eventually they could slowly creep up, but it's specifically tied to the the subscribers. And it's like you could either have more, it's like if you need more money for your company, either you grow with more subscribers or you have to increase the price. And Netflix figured out like they had to do that because they're not growing as much domestically or in the United States and Canada. They're growing more internationally, so they had to raise their prices, and then that's going to help finance more movies, shows, documentaries, and that sort of thing. But the Amazon one is interesting also just because like they're talking about this money's for, like I said, movies, TV shows, I guess documentaries, but also music stuff. I mean, it's spread across a little bit more of different varieties of entertainment than just like like the movie and TV show aspects. But I thought it was also interesting looking at how they how much money they made just for their subscription services, because I mean that alone, I think it was like 30 something billion or whatever. What does it say? 31.8 billion for subscription revenue, and that includes annual monthly fees associated with Prime, digital video, audiobook, digital music, ebooks, and other subscription services. So Amazon, this is not even a majority of where they're making, they're not making all their money from this. I mean, this is just one aspect of what the company derives revenue from. So it's it's just funny seeing like how they even are increasing some of their prices too to step up, I guess, their content production and distribution. And it shows even a big company like Amazon, I mean, like I said, they got to compete too. So this is it's just a trend I feel like is probably going to eventually hit most of these other companies too. So we're seeing it slightly occur now, but just know consumers are going to have to decide, like, hey, how many do I really need? What shows do I like more? So this is the landscape we're in, and I just thought it's a trend that's continuing to occur with these big companies. So it's just something to think about. But we definitely, if you're a big consumer of entertainment content, I mean, you're definitely, we're definitely in good times to have all these options. So I just feel like in general, I mean, it's just good for these are good opportunities for content creators, people who are making movies and shows and documentaries, even music, and then also the actual. Like I said, the variety for consumers, because there's so many. Like, I was just talking to my sister about this recently. I was like, she's telling me about some shows to watch. Like, oh, watch it. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. And I'm just like, it's on my list. And this never happened before. If you really think about it, like, I mean, there were shows before on network TV, and then you had slightly, then HBO, and you had Showtime eventually copied HBO. Now they have their own thing. But now it's like there are so many. I mean, you really gotta decide what do you care about the most, and then decide what's in your budget. And I mean, it can be overwhelming, but at the same time, it's great because it's more opportunity. So it's just all I'm saying is this is just a trend we're seeing, that more of these companies are going to spend more to have more of increase their library, but also, like I said, it's also benefiting us, the consumers. So I'm sure we're going to probably see other companies follow suit. But yeah, what are some of your thoughts, man?
So I guess for me, I'm just looking at just the circumstances of just jumping off of what you said, just the idea that the money has to come from somewhere. If you're trying to pay to increase um, the amount of shows, the amount of content that you have, the folks that you have putting that content together, they are looking to be well compensated. That adds into costs. I mean, I'm just going to go into some of the details that they specify in this article, and they go into a multitude of factors, and a lot of them play on those things that I was talking about. As I said, you mentioned some of them already. There a multitude of things, variables that can play into that. So it just makes sense that because of for those very reasons, whether you have are increasing the amount of content that you have, well, compensating all of those parties that are pivotal in creating that content, is going to play into raising the prices, and you're going to have to be able to finance those things from somewhere. So do you have any last final thoughts before we move on? Because I feel like you covered a good deal of it.
No, that's pretty much. I mean, like I said, my main thing was just I just think it's interesting highlighting these stories of this trend, because, like I said, it depending on the company, it took some time for some of these increases to kick in, and like I said, I just feel like it's going to keep happening. But what also is interesting is, like, seeing like a company like like a streaming service like HBO Max, which only had, or when it was HBO by itself, it only had one price point. But as you can see, all the competition, with Netflix and Amazon, Apple, and like
these streaming wars.
No, but the thing is, I doubt, like, if these other companies didn't have their lower price point, HBO Max wouldn't have a low. Like, HBO Max has a lower price point now too, with ads. Like, they weren't doing that before. So it's interesting to see what the competition is forcing the other companies to do, and it's, like I said, I think it's good for the consumer. If you don't want to spend that much for like the higher tier package, or if you don't want to pay for HD or for whatever the higher monthly fee is, you can still get the cheaper one. And I think it's good to have different options. So, like I said, it is win-win. It is win-win for everybody. But some people might not want to shell out more cash for some of these. So
no, I get you, and they go into specifically some of those reasons that they specify. I mean, they go into, as I said, everything trickles down. You have the content that you're doing, the amount of money that you're spending on all facets of those that are involved. That becomes pricier. That means that it trickles down to those that are watching it, like you're saying. I mean, they even commented on it in the article that, I mean, we have a raise in price where it's gone from $119 to $139 per year. And some of the factors that they specify, but again, this is just what they're specifying in the article. I'm sure there's far more, is that they talk about the rising wages and the transportation costs. So, that's another factor you don't even think about when you are thinking of, being able to, those parties that are involved in doing, that content creation, or even just like you were saying, just the service of being able to get products to people, that costs money. Like, a lot of those things that we kind of take for granted that have fees or have a dollar sign related to it. We don't really think of it as much, but costs money at the end of the day. Again, it has to come from somewhere.
Oh yeah, sorry. One last thing I will say. I know we've run this story a little longer. I just think it's relevant just to keep it in, just keep it into actual consideration and just in context.
Yeah.
Like I was just saying, like we think these are big numbers for like content, and these are big numbers for like the average person or whatever, whoever, just thinking about it. But in the context of also Amazon's business, I was just looking it up. I mean, their revenue last year was about $469.82 billion. So that 31 billion, I mean, that's a lot of money, but compared to their overall revenue, it's like, that's about 6%. So they're not making primarily all their money from this stuff, even though they are making, and they're not going to say they're not going to take the money. Of course they need, I mean, it's good to diversify. You don't want to just have people make money otherwise. So that also, that also plays into the whole, I'm sure, their perspective of how they're going to spend and everything. Because like I said, you look at Netflix, they make their money from, pretty much all of their money is from subscribers. signing up. That's it. You know, the difference, you know, with like I said, Amazon, I just showed you, is about like 6% of their revenue. I mean, you can look it up. But then you look at Disney, it's like the same. Disney's growing with Disney Plus, and that's making more money. But they also have amusement parks. They have, you know, they actually have movies making money at the box office. They have merchandise, all that stuff. And then like you see HBO Max, like, you know, I mean, Warner Media, same sort of thing. They have movies that were in theaters. They have HBO Max. You know, they have TV. There's also TV. And well, even though it's kind of like dying, but it's just interesting to see all these different companies have their different multiple streams of revenue, or maybe not as much. So then it's going to impact the decisions of how much they want to spend or they need to spend for their content. And also like, or maybe they won't, or maybe it's just more for marketing, you know? So that's what's unique. I think that's kind of unique with Amazon, where it's like, they make so much money anyway, but this is something they definitely, you know, they wanted to enter this market. And I mean, it is benefiting them. It's going to help them grow, but like they might not have as much of an urgency to spend the same amount as like, say, Netflix or another company, but they are kind of getting up there. So that's just something to think about too. So just thought I'd put that out there.
Indeed. All right. So in our next story, this is an exclusive out of a Deadline, is that the action sequel Den of Thieves is getting a sequel. They're gearing up, according to the story, to shoot in late spring in Serbia and France. Gerard Butler, O'Shea Jackson Jr., and Meadow Williams are all going to be returning and will be joined by Swin Temmel, while Curtis 50 Cent Jackson is expected to join as a producer. According to the article, the story will see the return of Big Nick, played by Butler, this time on the hunt in Europe for Donnie, so Jackson Jr., who is involved in the dangerous world of diamond thieves and the infamous Panther Mafia as they plot a massive heist of the world's biggest diamond exchange. So Jerome, you know, you hear news of this sequel, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the main reason I think that it was interesting to talk about the story, even though like I thought the first movie was decent. You know, it was kind of like a mix of you know, Heat and Usual Suspects. I don't think it was as good as those two movies, let's be clear, but I thought it was kind of decent, and it was a little bit, you know, in that genre. What I think is interesting though about this story is like it kind of goes back to like, from a financial aspect. That's why I kind of wanted to bring it up. The first movie, I looked it up, they spent about $30 million to make it, and it says worldwide it made $80 million, and that's warranting a sequel. I mean, I don't know exactly how much they spent on marketing costs or whatever, but obviously it was enough that the first film made its money back. But it kind of plays into what I mean. Just this is my perspective on how I would think that producers or if you're a filmmaker or specifically a producer and you're trying to make a film that's going to be released in theaters. Because remember, this movie did well in theaters. This is before the pandemic. So I think it was 2018 it came out. So, you know, I know, you know how we were talking about how like, yeah, usually the movies that do well in theaters, it's kind of like a discrepancy. It's like you got to be really low budget or you got to have a big budget and it's a built-in franchise like a Marvel film, DC, you know, whatever, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, you name it. IP has an established fan base or based on something. And usually, yeah, when that happens is you have like a bigger budget and the studios are able to risk the amount of money because they're like, all right, yes, there's a fan base. We should be able to make our money back. They can kind of project it. I mean, not always, but usually they can. But then how I was looking at it is like, all right, well then if it's not that, usually it's going to be something really low budget, like maybe $5 million or so, you know, something like Get Out. I think they spent like $4 million or $5 million in that range. But it's like you have more creativity with the originality because you could take chances with a lower budget. And then like that movie did amazing. But then like those movies in the middle, I kind of feel like you kind of got to be like this film where it's like, don't go past spending 30 million maybe for your movie. Because like once you start hitting like past that budget, I mean, really, I would say around 20 million, but 30 million is around the same price. Once you go past like 30 million or something, and it's not like an established brand, I mean, you have maybe some stars or whatever, or some names in there, it's going to be harder to make your money back. Because it's like, this movie did decently, but if they spent 50 million, if they spent 60 or 70 million, which is not hard to think of with a lot of these action movies, but because I know back in the day, I mean, they spent a lot of these action movies, they would spend from 50 million or more, even though you can make a good action movie for like 20 million. I mean, a lot of those Jason Statham films and some of those movies back in the day, they didn't spend as much. And even with, like I said, with an example like this, but if you don't keep that, if you don't keep that budget at a decent level that's lower, you're not gonna make your money back. It's gonna be very hard. You know what I'm saying? So, and then imagine if this was like a drama or something, at least in this landscape, or if it was a comedy or something and it wasn't, that well known or people weren't really anticipating seeing it. It's just harder for movies like that to make money. So I just thought this was interesting how, like, yes, this is one of those unique situations. I feel like, I mean, it's an action movie, people like seeing, spectacles on the big screen. I feel like people are usually willing, like I said, to see some big epic film, epic action movie, epic, superhero movie, or maybe they'll go see a horror film because they want to get scared. And I feel like, studios and filmmakers just kind of have to gauge that for, like, all right, well, what's the realistic amount of money you could probably make at the box office based on this budget and this IP and this cast. But otherwise it might make more sense. Let's put it on, for it to be on Netflix or on a streaming service, because the model, the metrics are different. But I feel like this is just an example of the most really you want to spend on a movie that might be released theatrically that doesn't have a fan base that's branded already and that's built in, and that's not like a superhero movie or something, or something that's really original, or even if it was, like, say this was, because, like, I don't think it's not really that original, the story. I mean, it's like has some elements, but like, I feel like that's the cap. Like once you go past that budget, it's going to be really hard to make your money back if you're relying on box office. Now streaming services is different, but I just feel like it kind of ties into what we were talking about before, how, like, those films in the middle, they're kind of like, you're not seeing them being made as much, that maybe we're like I'd say from 30 million to like 100 that are more dramas or, comedies or something that people don't really know, that they don't know that well, and maybe doesn't give you a reason to go to the theaters to see, because you're like, do I need to spend my 16 or 20 bucks to go see this, in theaters? So, but it'll be interesting to see how this sequel does too, now with the new landscape. Maybe, maybe if they keep the budget around the same amount, maybe. I have a feeling they probably will. But I just think it's an interesting case study for this film. So I don't know what your thoughts are. All right, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. But I know Brandon's there. Hold on 1 second.
All right, guys, are you able to hear me now better?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's all
right,
good.
there we go. Sorry, we're having a slight technical difficulty, but no, I guess what I was saying, I'll take it a step further and basically just saying, a lot of times we have the budget of what a film is, and then we have the budget of, like, the publicity. So, if we're talking about, not just the budget of the film, and we're including the publicity, that means that makes that potential for profit that much smaller. So that's why it's so key, just jumping again off of what Jerome was saying, that's why it's so key that you make your film budget as small as it is, because you're not even taking into account the other extenuating major blockbuster films. And we're talking about, like, middle of the line, the lower budget films, but those big blockbuster films, which is why it's so key that apologize for the noise, a lot going on outside. But anyway, But that's why it's so key. You hear about these big blockbuster films that they have, that they're so keyed in to making $1 billion or making a certain amount of money, far beyond their budget. Because yeah, you'll hear that a movie costs like $150
Wow, that's a
but
deal.
I know, right? $150 million, but that's not including like the 100 million, $150 million that went into promoting the film. So right now you're looking at now, not you're not just $150 million in the hole. Now you're $300 million in the hole. So that's why it's so key, that you're making, even though the movie makes like it the movie costs by itself without the publicity costs 150 million. You hear, oh, it made 600 million, or oh, it made 500 million, and they say, but it kind of broke even, or it didn't really make a profit. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? It made $500 million. But again, you have that movie budget, and then you have that publicity budget, so they have to make well over that in order to be able to have it make sense and make that profit.
And also, and to add to that, they don't studios get about half of the box office gross anyway, and in China, I think they get like 30%. But the thing is, if they show that the movie has done well in the box office, then it usually does better, like on demand and streaming. So that's why you want more of a hit. But exactly what you were saying, like, yes, that's what's crazy. So it's like, that's why like a movie like Get Out is perfect, because it's like, I think they spent like 4 million or 5 million, maybe they spent like 5 or 10 million on marketing. I think that movie made like 200 something worldwide. Like, that made a lot. That was highly profitable. Or we go back to our friend Ed Sanchez. I mean, obviously that's very unique situation with Blair Witch, but yes, I mean, they didn't spend that much. They spent like what, 30,000, I think, on Blair Witch. But I mean, that's also a very unique situation. But on average, these films that are usually if you can keep it around like 5 million or so for a lot of times horror films, like I know you're a big horror fan. That's why they keep cranking them out, because they're so it doesn't cost that much to make a lot of these. But action movies, I feel like you can do it. But like I said, then you gotta just don't go past 30 mil, or maybe give a cut of the gross to the stars. So they get a cut of the box office. And even like with J-Lo, like, I mean, you can see stars doing this. Like J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez did with Hustlers. I mean, I don't think she really got paid for the movie to act. Maybe she got scale, but she produced it and she got a cut of the gross, and that's where she made her money. So it's like you either got to do something like that, make a deal with this talent, so then they don't mind making the budget lower and then give them a cut of the gross, or you got to figure out something to just be creative. because like I said, just think about it, man. Like, if those big, like you were just saying, like if those big Marvel movies, look how much money they have to make based on their budget. I mean, that's Marvel. And the thing is, then they're making tons of money. Obviously, they're probably making more money on the ancillary revenue from, like, video on demand, DVD, or just whatever, and the subscribers now. But yeah. People, it's crazy. Marketing is no joke. I mean, usually they say it's about double the budget for altogether, with including marketing. I don't know if always, but yes, to a certain extent. So yes, that's why if you really think about it, the ideal situation is if a studio or anybody who's acquiring your film, if you can do it independently, or like just to help co-produce or finance the film, is if you can get like an idea that doesn't have to cost that much money, and you can get talent and then pay them on the back end. But then also, like, if you can have sequels in a franchise. Like, I mean, the perfect example, I'm not saying all the movies are great, we've talked about this all the time, but like Saw, I mean, that's a horror film. They can't stop making those movies because they keep making they make so much money, and they don't cost much to make. I mean, that's why you keep seeing these sequels for a lot of these films, because that's what happens. But yeah, it's very unlikely you're going to see a sequel if the movie doesn't do well. I mean, sometimes they try to remake or reboot something. Yeah, that happens. But usually it's because it's they're making so much money. But yeah, that's why I just thought the story would be interesting to talk about.
For sure.
So,
all right.
We'll see how the sequel
does.
Another
story that made the rounds this week, and this is super exciting. Friend to the show, Sherri Chung, has been elected as the first female music branch governor of the Television Academy. So, in to go and dive deeper, if you will, this is an exclusive out of Variety. Again, as I said, Sherri Chung had been elected as a governor, excuse me, I can talk today. It is morning, guys. Elected governor of the music branch of the Television Academy, which will serve alongside Jeff Russo, replacing Ricky Minor. She, again, is the first female governor for the music branch. Jerome, you hear this news, as I said, friend to the show, shout out Sherri. What are your thoughts on, this historic news?
Yeah, shout out Sherri. I know you know her better than me. You've interviewed her more, but I know it was good meeting her. We were hanging with Blake in LA at his studio. But yeah, I think it's great. I thought it was an interesting story too, and it's like it's great that they're you're seeing in different aspects of the industry. They're like if it's film, TV, and obviously the music side now. There's more representation, more opportunities for minorities, and not just also women. And especially women of color. And I think it's great. This is what we need, and like I said, this is not the end all be all for like, oh, now there's a lot more diversity. It's better. It's just a stepping stone. But things like this matter. When you have more people in the room that have come from different backgrounds and have different ideas and different perspectives from different cultures, and it impacts everything. It's going to impact every creative decision for a film or for a TV show. Or for anything that you're making. And I'm glad that the TV Academy is recognizing her talents and her skills. And it seems like she wants to definitely use that position to definitely help expand the representation and diversity in the industry. Obviously, specifically for when it comes to music, those music positions, if it's composers or music supervisors, or it's like lyricists and arrangers, conductors, that sort of thing. So congrats to Sherri.
Indeed. I was gonna say, indeed.
What do you think,
yes,
Brandon?
indeed.
So you got any other thoughts on
I
that?
guess again, like I said, it's so cool to hear this news and the history that's being set here. And I guess the other part of that, and it plays into what you said, and I'll put up this is the most recent chat that we had, and you guys can check it out. I'll try to put the link in the comments. But yeah, I guess the thing that is coolest about this is the fact that history is being set here, and even in the article itself, Sherri comments to your point, Jerome, of talking about yeah, this is great, but hopefully I'm the first of many women to do so. And as she is very clear about pointing out, which is absolutely key to understand, women have been working, as she's quoted as saying, women have been working in all aspects of the business as composers, as music directors, conductors, lyricists, arrangers, orchestrators, and music supervisors, making contributions for a really long time. So, it's, while it's, again, this is she's acknowledging, this is a hallmark moment. It's still something that needs to continue to happen, and we need to continue to see a trend of. So did you have any, final thoughts before we, hop back in to our next story?
No, I think you hit on the head. And no, it's always nice seeing people that that we interview or that we know, getting recognized. And no, I think it's just great. And especially, like I said, that's obviously another component of what we like to share with everyone. Just not only the news and of entertainment and business aspect, but also, like I said, the progress being made in the industry, which is. It's happening, but it's pretty slow. It's getting a little more traction now, but it's still a lot more. It's a lot more that needs to be done. And it's just, I like highlighting these types of stories, and it's just good to know that, as even someone that we've interviewed a few times, and we a friend of the show is part of that movement. So that's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so hopping into our next story surrounding Jordan Peele. Let me pull that up here. So yes, in the next story that we have news hit via Deadline. So shout out to Deadline that Jordan Peele's Nope, a new upcoming film, will serve as a platform for the launch of Universal's filmed entertainment group, California Below the Line traineeship. So, Jerome, you hear this news, and as I said, it's going to be a part of this organization, so Global Talent Development and Inclusion. What are your thoughts on, him utilizing his film as a platform to, improve, stuff behind the lines?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, well, it's a nice transition to this story, right?
Right.
From the last story, because we're talking about representation and diversity. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think out of all the filmmakers and the films that are being produced at Universal, you would think that this would be one of the projects where they implement this program, and I think that's great. When you have people like Jordan Peele or anyone, Ava DuVernay, Lena Waithe. I mean, there's a lot of these minority filmmakers, or say marginalized filmmakers, because obviously or based on the culture, but that are obviously trying to make change and increase opportunities in Hollywood for people in like I said, marginalized communities, or minorities, people of color, BIPOC, whatever you want to call it. But it is good to actually see, like these people are actually doing something. They're not just talking the talk. Even Michael B. Jordan, he's another one. His production company, I think, they had that rider, the inclusion rider. So it's like you're seeing people because there are a lot of people who talk, and then you might hear something here or there, or maybe you don't even hear about it, and like whatever. There might be some small like publicity, it might be a publicity event. Like a lot of times some of the big companies might have some program, and it's like, cool, that's good. But it's great seeing also like the filmmakers too, like they're part of the change. And there's something to be said of obviously not just increasing the diversity above the line, obviously writers, directors, producers, executive producers, that's all very important, and obviously the talent in front of the camera, but also below the line, and that's just as important, because that also impacts some of the decisions being made, because your director, I don't care what director you are. Even Rob Rodriguez, he might be one of the exceptions, but even so, like, you can't do every position, so you still have to filter your vision through different heads of departments. Some of these, there's a lot of those positions too that that are filled by a lot of the same type of, I'm not saying the same exact type of people, but it isn't as diverse in a lot of those positions, and that was another criticism that I know people had in the industry, and also as emerging filmmakers, to be like, all right, well, we also need to enhance diversity there too, so it's great to see that they have at least this program, and I know there's some other programs too, where it's like you're actually mentoring people from marginalized communities to actually get a foot in the door, and then they can move up the ranks also, and then like they can decide hey, do they want to go into maybe the camera department, or they want to get into props department, or art direction, production design, gaffer, whatever, cinematography. And it's like that's how a lot of these positions have new talent and fresh new people move up the ranks, and then you can emulate that. You can just keep pay it forward, and that's how you can get into the union if you're working on these sets too. So it's a lot of different opportunities and doors that can be opened by having some of these programs. It's the same to me. It's the same as like I said, some of those special writers programs they have, or the director training programs. Like just by being in that, being in the circle of people doing it already, you can learn just by being there, getting in. You make connections, and then you can move up. And it's like a lot of times if you're not in those certain places, or you're not around those people or the people making decisions or that can actually hire you, like it's really hard to enter that world. So I have to definitely give props to Universal and Jordan Peele for doing that. And I just hope they keep, like I said, they keep doing this. And they should, I hope every studio does something like this, because it's still like I said, even with the diversity that's occurring now, like this new renaissance, you could say, of more diverse filmmakers and actors. I mean, it's not every aspect of the industry too, and it's, also with women and I mean, we're not even, I mean, if you think about it too, there's also, like, when it comes to disabled people, they have a struggle, there's a struggle there too to have more diversity there too. Or obviously the LGBTQ community. I mean, Latinos, Latinas, Middle Eastern community. I mean, Desi. I mean, there's a lot more representation that could be introduced to Hollywood. And I will say, lastly, also what's interesting about this too is it seems like they're also helping to end because they teamed up with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I think that's pretty cool too, because you're also helping, people maybe who are like who might have been incarcerated before find work and, in a craft or something within the industry too. And, it to be, because they're saying this is for, regarding the nonprofit ARC, it's to work to end mass incarceration in California. And according to this article, and they're also talking, it focuses, that organization focuses on educating aspiring artists, craftsmen, and technicians, and creating pathways to employment. And they were selected to take part in the NOPE traineeship. So, which each, it was for, 5 of those students that were in that program were assigned to a specific department based on their area of study or interest. So that's also very important for the community too, because I mean, when it comes to, like, say if you went to prison for something and, like, it was you come out and say it was something petty or a smaller crime or whatever, it's like it's hard to find a job. So it's like, if you have a program to help people and, like, they're turning their lives around, I mean, like, the correctional facility is supposed to correct people, help them have better lives. If you don't have jobs also and programs for people to get out of that system and out of that cycle, they're just going to go right back into prison. And it's like, I feel like anything Hollywood or anyone else can do to help, also help people to just get out of that system and, like, turn their life around, I'm all for that too. I mean, obviously there's definitely exceptions for certain levels, but I mean, like I said, if you came out of prison for something, obviously, you should have a chance to turn your life around. I think so. I think that's an interesting aspect.
No, I hear you. I guess the thing that strikes a chord with me is just the idea that talking about how the program is described and how thorough it is. So in this article, they go into some details about what to expect for people that go into the program, and you touched on some of it. That idea of, first, let me start where it comments on being paid for their work. So, a lot of times when you have
very important
when you have these, like, trainee programs or internships, it's not guaranteed, like, that you're going to get paid for it. A lot of times they'll say, oh, but you're being provided with the experience that's payment enough. No, like, it is key that payment is involved in programs like these, where you're a trainee or you're an intern, things of that nature, where you're in that type of role. So let me start there. That's awesome that they're getting paid for their work. They comment further. They say the duration of their time on set varying with each production. The selection process for the first round of included in interviews are with production executives, relevant stakeholders, and the heads of their respective departments. Again, things that you touched on. But another part that I want to touch on, which I don't feel like is getting enough attention, is what they talk about in the end. And I feel like you would get into that, is just that idea that they're assigned to a GTDI or HR partner to ensure the experience was as rewarding as possible. Because I feel like a lot of times when you have programs like these, a company is just patting themselves on the back and saying, okay, yeah, we're doing this program to be inclusive and to involve everybody. So once we do the program, that's it, we're done. No, like they are being thorough in ensuring that from beginning to end for whoever that trainee is, that the experience is fruitful and that it's enjoyable. So like they have them kind of, I guess you can say, kind of checking in and having that partnership involved where they're still kind of keeping tabs on that trainee, so to speak, to ensure that the experience was positive. Because a lot of times, you hear that, these programs are made, and then after that, the company doesn't really, pay that much more attention to it, and they just kind of just let it be. So
publicity stunt. That's what I would call it. Publicity is done.
Those are the things, things that really struck a chord with me in talking about how they, comment on this program and how it works. But did you have any last details before we move on?
No, I think you hit. I think that's an important point to, emphasize. But yeah, because like I always think that is. I'll just give a little example of like even when I interned. I interned in the music industry doing video work for them. I kept in touch with certain people, and that was a good experience for me because and I got I had some opportunities that I got through that, and I think that's important. And obviously, I wasn't getting paid while I was interning at one of these companies. But then when I got some of these other gigs, I got paid. So that was during school, but college. But yeah, I think that's crucial because you got to remember, like you have. Obviously, the person who's in the program, I would think that you would want to try and keep in touch with people as much as possible. But I think there should also be an effort on, obviously there's an incentive there because you're trying to grow your career. But if the company, if these big companies are trying to also be known for doing something great too. Like they really need to make that effort also and help, like I said, help grow the careers of these emerging crafts, filmmakers, or if it's like I said, if you want to specialize in a craft within the filmmaking industry, which are all those positions are very important. You can't make a movie without without crew. So. And it's a good pathway to eventually transition into different departments and see what you might like to specialize in or move up in. And I think that is key because, like you're saying, like and I would even say with actors because I always find it interesting sometimes too with some actors who maybe come out of you never heard of and they were like really good in a movie and then you're just like, what happened? Of course your agent has to help with that, but I'm like. I feel like it's such a wasted opportunity when someone new, a fresh face comes onto the screen or is coming in, and you could tell there's talent there, they're good, but then there's like no support system to like try and like navigate the industry or get in there. It's like it kind of like makes me feel like I know from firsthand experience and also talking to hearing other people's stories that are in the industry. Some people just cutthroat like that. I'm not saying for this specifically, but. So I think just some people approach business or just certain industries where there's more of a demand to enter it as maybe like almost like a zero-sum game. But there are also good people out there, and it's good to see that it is changing. It seems to be changing a little bit better, and more programs like this, and the one that Lena Waithe has, where she kind of has like an incubator for artists to come and learn and get mentored. I think is going to be crucial to seeing more diverse voices and faces and people in all sorts of positions in the entertainment industry. So that's why we highlight the story, man. I want to see more of this stuff, and we should probably follow up too, see like what's the progress being made. So
indeed,
that's all I have to say about that. But anyway, all right, man.
Indeed. All right. So getting into our next story. News made the rounds this week that Marvel, geez, it's morning, guys. Monkeypaw, I'm sorry.
Hey, he might be doing a Marvel movie eventually.
Right. We've done so many Marvel stories, but yes, Monkeypaw and Universal land NANNY director's next project And to be, more specific, and I apologize if I butcher your name, Nikiatu Jusu, director of Nanny. Jerome, you hear these thoughts. We were just talking about Jordan Peele with Nope and the diversity program, and now we, are talking about Monkeypaw, and having, a super talented, filmmaker, that's on the that's continuing to put out great work, and them, Universal and Monkeypaw, having a hand or guiding this next project that she has. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's another tie-in. Big up to Jordan Peele. I mean, having, like I said, having more diverse voices in Hollywood makes a difference. I mean, example, remember we watched Candyman. I mean, he hired Nia DaCosta. I mean, that's the high. I think that's the highest grossing film.
I guess it was a Freudian slip. We were just talking about Marvel. She will be directing Captain Marvel 2. So there you go.
The Marvels, I think that's what Marvels, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, like, someone has to give you an opportunity to get to that next level too. I mean, even you can be as talented as you want and you're doing your thing, but there's going to be a point where someone's going to have to help you get to that next level. And like someone like Jordan Peele, he's already paying it forward. I mean, Jordan Peele's only directed 2 movies. This is his 3rd film. And he's done other stuff, produced TV, but like it just shows there's no excuse of how long you need to be in the game to like try to pay it forward. Like he's doing it off the bat. Like that's why I got to give Jordan Peele a lot of props for what he's doing. And it just shows. It's like, also shout out to the director of that movie. Was it Nanny? I got to pronounce it correctly. Nikiatu Jusu. Okay, I might have butchered it too, but I apologize if I. But also shout out there. She's an NYU alumnus, so I got the email. But I think it's great. Like you make a film, gets recognized at Sundance, but and then also you get your next movie, developed by Monkeypaw, and Jordan Peele is spearheading that, so that's great. But it also shows too, like these programs also important because I mean, according to the article, I mean, she was not only the director wasn't only in she was in the pick was selected in the 2019 Sundance Institute Creative Producing Lab, the 2019 IFP Project Forum, the 2020 Sundance Screenwriters and Directors Labs, and then it was one of 35 projects selected for the 2020 Creative Capital Awards and was shortlisted for the Blacklist 2020. So for the years, rankings of the year's hottest screenplay. So it just shows it's like, I mean, that is definitely a journey, because I mean some of these programs, yes, yeah, you might be a finalist or something, you might get into a program, but like it might not come to fruition at that point, but eventually if you keep getting recognition or whatever, and then you get your movie done, it's your calling card to then impress whoever might like it or might have a similar vision to you. And like, I mean, this was a horror film that was critically acclaimed, and also obviously she's a woman of color. I'm sure that's something also, like if Jordan Peele likes that, like, and he's obviously trying to give back too, and that's his focus, which I think is a great thing. He's not, it's a win-win. It's like he's spearheading or executive producing and developing a project that obviously he has interest in, but he's also helping put on, female filmmakers or just, filmmakers of color. I think that's great. I mean, but like I said, it takes a Jordan Peele to do that. It takes like a John Singleton, rest in peace. He did that too. Lena Waithe, Ava DuVernay. I mean, Ava DuVernay I think she only hires female directors for Queen Sugar. I mean, some people might not like that, but hey, there's a reason why she does it. I think it's great. There's a lot of shows to direct, but there's a specific reason why she did that. So I think it's just amazing. And I just like seeing that there's newer talent coming out and getting opportunities. And, it'll be interesting to see what types of what's her next project. And you never know. All it takes is really like we were just talking about with Nia DaCosta. Like all it takes is you have, you get recognized, then you make a film that has even if it's not the most critically acclaimed, but at least it does pretty well at the box office. then you can make that bridge, that gap, that you can bridge that gap to the, if you want to do, maybe get hired for a big studio film or like a Marvel film. I mean, same with Ryan Coogler. Same, he had Fruitvale Station, he did Creed, and he got Black Panther. I mean, it's a process. So, and also it's good for, I think it's also good for the filmmaker to not just go crazy from like, because this is a big leap if you go from something low budget and then like you're doing a big studio movie. It's good to kind of take steps too, because we've seen examples of that where it didn't work out well. I'm not going to mention some names, but there are some. But anyway, I think this is a good story, and it'd be interesting to see. I haven't seen this film, Nanny, but I'm going to have to eventually check it out. Yeah, I'm excited to see what her next project is, because like Jordan Peele doesn't play. I mean, like his.
For sure.
I haven't seen all of his TV projects. I mean, I'm still trying to finish with Lovecraft Country, which I thought was really good. But I love, Get Out. I mean, even Us to a certain extent, even if it wasn't perfect, it still was a original, different perspective. And I'm sure Nope is going to be good. It looks like it's going to be interesting. But then also, I mean, I like that Candyman film, that remake. I mean, so he's definitely putting his name behind projects that are quality, and it might be in that. It might be more in the horror genre or a mix of fantasy, sci-fi, and other elements. But who knows? I mean, I'm sure he also does comedy too. I mean, he's pretty diverse.
For sure. I mean, a lot of people forget this, but I mean, my introduction to Jordan Peele was actually Mad TV way back in the day. Like, because I remember when I heard that name pop up when they were talking about Get Out, and I was like, Jordan Peele? You mean from Mad TV? Him? But you just never know, and it's always great to be surprised of that shift in seeing other things that that artists try, and seeing that they have a talent for it. So as I said, I was well versed with Peele from the comedy aspect, but it's awesome, just as you were commenting before. I love my horror films, and to also have his talents on display in that genre as well. Now you must be psychic, because I was going to comment on that same thing. You already touched on many of it, so I'm not going to go too much further. And just that idea that everyone had to start out somewhere. Doesn't matter how talented you are, you still have to have someone vouch for you and to kind of guide you along, which is why I commented on what we were talking about before with the diversity program. Someone has to be there to as I said, vouch for you, or be there in your corner. A lot of times you'll see it a lot where you'll have a filmmaker that doesn't have a household name yet, but you'll have like a big time producer. You'll have a major filmmaker that will act as an executive producer to make sure that the film gets seen, because they know if they attach their name to it instead of attaching this director's name, that it'll have a little more legs in terms of getting out there to the masses. So, they might put their name in front of it. And, unfortunately, what'll happen sometimes is that some people get confused and think that it's their film when it's not their film.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
I'll give you a couple of examples of that. Like, I love District 9.
District 9,
a lot of people, think that it's Peter Jackson's film. And I know his name was plastered in front of it, but it's not Peter Jackson's film. It's Neil Blomkamp's film. So, a lot of people get confused on that. Same thing. I'll give you another example, and I'll go way back.
I'm sure Back to the Future probably had the same thing.
I'll give you this. Nightmare Before Christmas. A lot of people assume that Tim Burton directed.
Yeah, Tim Burton. Yeah, it's true. I did too for a little bit too, and it's not. He did not direct it. He did not direct it.
So you have examples of that where you have, you have artists, be they directors or major producers, that they'll champion a film if they believe in it, and it gives people that push, that help, in order to get their work seen. And then because of that, it can snowball into other things. I know you were just talking about Coogler with Black Panther. That's a prime example. And I feel like you put his name because of
and he does it too. He does the same thing too.
Yeah. So
look at Judas and the Black Messiah. And that's new one with Regina King. Was it a Black? What's something Root? Remember we were talking about a bit something. This is another one. There's one coming out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And
I know.
Space Jam. Like I mean, in the Space Jam sequel, he's on that too. Yeah, so he's doing it too. I mean, they're all. It's great. Anyway, I know.
But yeah, hopping into our last story for today, and I feel like it's kind of fitting because we are coming up on the week of it. And if you guys have been on my social media, I've been talking about it all all week, and that is the Super Bowl. So there was news that made the rounds this week that NBC has sold out, and this is a story out of Variety. NBC has sold out of all of its inventory for the big game scheduled to broadcast on February 13th in Los Angeles. NBC Universal in a statement Thursday that it has sold every in-game unit across NBC, Telemundo, and all digital platforms, including Peacock. Now, just to give you an idea of the context, guys, they're saying that they sold out of their inventory for the big game. So according to the article, the network sought between 5.8 and 6.2 million for a 30-second spot, guys. So putting that into context, they sold out of their ad space, and each just on average, a 30-second spot costs that much. So Jerome,
that's just to air it. That's exactly. They're not included. We're not talking about production costs to make the commercial.
Exactly. So Jerome, you hear this news of this, crazy amount of money. And I mean, we have an idea, we hear people, hear the news of how much is being shelved out, to promote during the Super Bowl, because obviously, so many eyes are on this game for that finite amount of time of the game. But still, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it was relevant, obviously, because we're gonna be there. I mean, I know you're going there earlier, man. Beat me to it. It's all good. Next time I'm gonna go Sunday to Monday.
Yeah.
Anyway. But no, I just think this is hilarious because, and it's important to still show this is really the reason why TV networks, the traditional networks, are still around or have relevance still, or I would say add value to the consumer, television, industry, or whatever you want to say, just that part of entertainment. Because I know Amazon made a deal with the NFL to stream some games, but I don't know if they're exactly live. It might be later. I'd have to look into that. But this is the last part of regular TV that people, you can't deny. Like, people are watching. I mean, and like I said, the NFL, why they call the movie Any Given Sunday? I mean, they own the NFL owns a day of the week. Well, you could say two, because of Monday and these other days. But anyway, when they switch it up. But so many people watch live sports, but specifically football. That's why, with the NFL making those agreements where they sell the TV rights and then, to certain networks. This is why, they get so much money for selling the rights to the different networks. These networks make so much money selling ad space, and then in particular the Super Bowl, because it's ridiculous. I mean, it's record level, 7 million, and like I said, that's just what we were talking about, ad space, just to air the commercial. Whoever is paying that amount of money, they'll probably spend another 5 million or more or 1 million at least to make the commercial. And this is 30 seconds. This is not, we were talking about movies that had budgets of $5 million for an hour and 20, a 90-minute film. This is just for, 30 seconds. But these big corporations know that it's worth it because, a lot of people are watching. They get the brand awareness. There's people who don't even, like I said, don't even watch football like that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch football like that as much as you probably do. But you'll get people who watch the Super Bowl just for the commercials. And I always thought it's funny how some of these commercials, I think they've kind of gone downhill. They haven't been as good. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe because there's so many better commercials or interesting things happening online. So maybe kind of lost that. I just hope this year they kind of improve on some of the commercials, because I just feel like they've been lacking that. They just haven't been as the quality hasn't been there, at least in concept. Some are decent, some are good, but it just seems like it's decreased in like that part of quality. But I just find it interesting how this is still a thing, and I'm wondering how much longer this is gonna be sustained, because all it takes is one of these big companies, these streaming companies. I don't know if it's if it's Facebook or Meta. If Amazon wants to, if they make that deal to really be whoever's going to be like the ultimate live streamer, which it seems like Amazon is going in that direction. I don't know if they're going to be exclusive. I don't know if the NFL would want to have just one company stream all of their games, but this is kind of like, I feel like this is just like the turn. However, this changes in the future is going to be the turning point of how TV changes, because, I mean, would people, I mean, people, obviously there's ESPN and there, whatever, however that works out, or I don't know, was it, or Fox Sports or whatever sports network. I'm sure there's like I said, there's certain games that are allowed to be streamed later or whatever, however the licensing deal is. But for these big games like the Super Bowl, like the playoffs, all that, like, I mean, they rotate with, different networks get to every year pretty much get to air the Super Bowl. Like they rotate, like there's whatever the schedule is, however the deal is set. So I'm wondering if eventually, like, would it be like, are we going to watch it on, would it be like, hey, you're going to watch it on Peacock? I guess maybe you can. I mean, or instead of the actual network, and is that going to really make a difference? With the ad space, I would think it's still people going to pay for it, but I don't know. It's just, I'm just curious to see how live television, the big live events, how that's going to change in the future with how streaming has taken over for, scripted narrative content, because that's, like I said, that's the last frontier. And you're not going to see, like, I really doubt Netflix is going to want to enter this market, because they already have their, they have their niche, and they stick to that plan. But you never know. One of these competitors, I don't know, Apple, Amazon, maybe Amazon might ramp up. I don't know. And also the question is it going to be just different? Will it still be these networks also vying for it? Or is it also going to be the streamers? Like, are they going to mix it up that way? So I don't know. It's just interesting to see, but I still feel like this is just like that last frontier that we might just keep seeing, like, hey, it's just live sports might just stay on traditional TV, or maybe that's the only reason why they're still around, just to air these live, games that are so popular, people want to see. So that was just that was the main reason why I thought this would be an interesting story. And of course, since we're going to be there next week, so you tell me what you think.
So I hear what you're saying. I guess the thing that was specified that was interesting in their article and talking about what played into the costs for this uptick in how much is being shelved out to promote at the Super Bowl. And one thing that they come out with is just that idea that there are new advertisers. There's some new advertisers that perhaps didn't have relationships with NBC before. So with not having that relationship, NBC is able to kind of negotiate some higher prices, because maybe those companies are really trying to get in there. Maybe once they get in there and develop that relationship with NBC, that price may be able to lower. But they talk about in the article, they say, the Super Bowl is attracting a great number, going again to what I was discussing, is attracting a greater number of rookie advertisers, marketers who in some cases are not big spenders on TV and lack, and as a result, lack the years long relationships with NBC or another network that would help them carve, a discount or a lower price. Now, that being said, this year, NBC has attracted, according to this article, 30 new advertisers, which is about 40% of their ad roster. And to put in comparison for other years, there were 26 new advertisers in 20. Let's see, according to it said last year. So last year there were 26 new advertisers compared to just 7 in 2020 and 2019, respectively. So you're seeing new organizations coming into the fold to, you know, take advantage of this major event that they know that, you know, people are going to have their eyes on. And, you know, that demand, yet that demand of, you know, ensuring that you have a spot, you know, in this major event has, you know, been able to give NBC license to, you know, hike that price, especially if it's someone new that they, you know, don't really have a relationship with and is not, you know, maybe as seasoned in terms of their relationship with negotiating with NBC. So I found that part of it really interesting as well. You know, will we see an increase of, you know, more potential advertisers, or will it kind of flatten out to, you know, just those advertisers that NBC, as this article, you know, highlights? Will it, you know, flatten out with just those folks that they have a relationship with? So we'll see. But did you have any other final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was definitely an interesting part of the story, also. And I'm glad, you know, that you touched on. I was just to piggyback on the Amazon thing. I mean, I was looking up that they it was for Thursday night games. They finalized the new 11-year media rights deal. Amazon got exclusive Thursday night rights. I mean, this is according to CNBC. I mean, this happened. This was like in March last year. They were talking about this, but yeah, and that's a portion of obviously a portion of the games that are played. It's not for Super Bowl or nothing. So you can see how the NFL is being, you know, they're smart with diversifying who they license their games to. But I'm just still thinking, like, I'm still just very curious about this whole situation, because I mean, if you really look at it, like, YouTube gets, I mean, what is it? The highest viewed, last time I checked, like, that Baby Shark dance had, like, okay, it said 10.6 billion lifetime views. That is true. That's lifetime. It's not one real time, you know, video or experience that everyone's watching at the same time. So I see that's still the value that I guess you have in the Super Bowl, which I think it's usually like 110 million or around that, usually every year, or it fluctuates in that realm. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I am a little bit surprised too, like how they were talking about, like, you have the rookie advertisers, and that would make sense. If they haven't advertised on TV, they're going to get paid more. But I would think the newer advertisers would just be focusing online with, you know, if it's YouTube or Google Ads or whatever. And it really would just be interesting to do that case study to see, like, all right, what's your ROI, and do they really need to be advertising at the Super Bowl as much, or is that really worth it? With obviously it must be to a certain extent for some brands, but I don't know for like everybody, you know. And that's also why I think what was interesting is watching, you know, before the game, you would see there'd be a lot of interesting commercials coming out online, or they'll have a touch. They might have a small, like, something that, you know, or you would see more ads that would be like, all right, you hear a little bit about what this company is or whatever, but then go online to get more information. So just to draw people to the website, which, I mean, I guess that could definitely benefit you. But I'm also wondering, like, for these prices, is that worth it? Are you really making that much more money for that? Or is it just, you just want to get more people to know your brand? And then I guess in the long run, I guess you're making the money enough of an ROI. But, you know, with all these different marketing techniques of online marketing, you know, and SEO and all that stuff, I'm really wondering how much it's actually worth it for every company, or is it just going to be specific industries? And, you know, maybe some of these newer companies don't even need to advertise Super Bowl. I mean, unless you just have that big marketing budget. So I think that's just curious. That's just something I'm curious about, to know about, and to see how that trend goes. Because I just feel like with the internet in general, it's changed so much, like, that it's made it less relevant to advertise on TV. But it seems like still, with the exception of you know, of a big event like this. So. You know, and I guess also just demographic too. Like, I mean, if you know, obviously the people who are watching Super Bowl, it's a large demographic, but it's a certain one, as opposed to if you're just being very targeted online. So I just think that's going to be something interesting to keep watching as the years continue, and as the Super Bowl is still, you know, the big go-to event for network television, you know. So, but it should be fun to watch, you know, and hang out there.
Indeed. So, you know, unless you were unaware we will be at the Super Bowl next week, so we'll have some cool exclusives for you. But before I, go any further into those things, I'll punt it over to Jerome. Jerome, can you tell folks where they can find you? Because as you guys know, that will wrap up this episode of This Week in Review.
Oh yeah.
So take it away.
Yeah, definitely. No, we appreciate you guys checking us out. You can find me on JW Bourgeois 21 on Twitter and Instagram. And also you can follow us on Instagram for Movers and Shakers at Movers Shakers Unlimited. That's right down there. Yeah, Movers Shakers Unlimited. Also, we are on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD. That's Move and Shake UNLTD. Also on Facebook at Move and Shake UNLTD. And also, if you want to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited. Like Brandon said earlier, but we have the link down here, patreon.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited. Yeah, definitely like, subscribe, click the little bell on YouTube. And you'll get more feeds to newer episodes of different shows that we have. And like Brandon said, next week is going to be some interesting. You're going to see some interesting exclusives and events. And there's going to be some names too. You might see. We got some. We can't reveal, but there's going to be some interesting people you're going to see on in our feed. So it's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And you have to let me know if you go to that thing on Tuesday, man.
All right.
Tell me how that went, because I'm coming on Wednesday.
Fair deal. So again, shout out to co-creator Jerome Bourgeois, helping out as always with This Week in Review. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Twitter at Brandon Choi ENT, which you see down below. You can find me on Instagram at Brandon Choi _ENT. And next week we will be in LA for many of the festivities happening with the Super Bowl. So, keep it locked. Again, we don't want to, spoil some of the cool stuff that we have on tap for you guys. But we'll try to give you, some heads up of where you can find it. So just like you saw that Jerome had brought up, we have Instagram, which we will, be on Instagram, sharing, some in the moment things that will be happening during the show. Same goes for, our YouTube channel. A lot of our, Facebook and YouTube, a lot of our exclusive interviews will be, coming through there. So, be on the lookout there. And with all that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for, checking out our show and, keeping up with it, each week. It means a lot for those of you that that are consistent and watch our show, and for those of you that are new to us and and have been enjoying our content, thanks a lot, and the comments that we've been getting of folks that have been touching on some of the content that they've seen and things that they've enjoyed means a lot. Appreciate it a lot. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Bye.
Peace out.